Part 26. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 251. Qian was stunned and subconsciously grabbed Qin Yang's sleeve. Isn't the prince's eldest son in Dazhu? How did he come to Ziliang? Did he find out that Gu Qingsong was still alive and come here specifically to find his father? There was a stove burning in the room, but Qian's hands and feet felt cold, the chill penetrated to her bones, and she could not suppress the trembling all over. What should we do? What should we do? Qian's voice was filled with tears, and she grabbed Qin Yang's hand in fear. If the prince knows, he will definitely not let you go. No. He must not let him know. No, no, Ms. Lu, what did Mrs. Lu say to you? Ms. Lu said that she will catch someone to support her when she goes to hell. She won't make it easy for me. Are you satisfied? Qin Yang took off Qian's hand and went to the study. Qian stumbled to the ground, all the blood drained from his face. Qin Yang collaborated with Lu to lie and deceive Gu Qingsong that his wife and children in Dazhu were all dead. In addition, Qin Yang slept with Lu. Mistakes are added to mistakes, and there is absolutely no way to survive. No. Nothing can happen to Qin Yang. Qian's heart was full of hatred for Lu. If this woman hadn't humbled herself and climbed into Qin Yang's bed, how could Qin Yang have done anything wrong to Gu Qingsong? There was a flash of cruelty in her eyes. A rotten person like Lu should have died long ago. Anyway, if things are exposed, Mrs. Lu will not survive. If Mrs. Lu is dead, Qin Yang can live on. As long as Qin Yang slept with the Lu family, he could hide it, and then let Qin Yang take the blame and tell Gu Qingsong personally that his wife and children were still alive. Even if the brothers can't make it, at least they can live. Qian immediately made up her mind, got up hurriedly, tidied up, took out an alloy hairpin from her makeup package, put it on her head and went to find Lu. It was not a matter of honor, so Qian went to Prince Changxing's mansion quietly, not daring to let Qin Yang know. After renting a carriage and arriving at the gate of Prince Changxing's mansion, Ms. Qian was about to get off the carriage when she saw Ms. Lu coming out of the mansion and getting on a carriage. She felt her heart tightening and told the coachman, "Go quickly and follow the carriage in front." The coachman followed immediately. Liu's carriage stopped in front of the tea house and got out of the carriage. Qian's fingers tightened, and when they entered the tea house, she followed them out of the carriage, carefully avoiding Lu, and followed them. Liu's sneaky look made Qian feel like she was going to do something bad again. If she was told to hold the pigtail, Lu would never try to take advantage of Qin Yang again. Ms. Qian followed Ms. Lu out of the back door of the tea house. Ms. Qian poked her head out first and saw Ms. Lu stopping in front of a house, looking around. She was so scared that she retracted her head. After waiting for a while, she poked her head out again and saw Ms. Lu. The figure hurriedly entered, and the door slammed shut. Qian didn't see anyone in the room. After thinking about it, she left the tea house and went to sit in the tavern opposite. An hour later, Ms. Lu came out of the tea house with a happy face, got on the carriage and left. Qian knew what Lu had done at a glance. He held the wine glass in both hands and took a panicked sip to calm down his courage. After buying 2 jars of wine and a plate of peanuts, Qian found a little beggar and asked him to place them at the door of the house where Lu went, knock on the door and leave. The little beggar did as Qian asked, put the wine at the door, knocked on the door and ran away. After a while, the door opened. Qian was hiding in a secret corner. When she saw a tall and strong man coming out, her eyelids jumped suddenly when he turned around. This person. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 252. The alley was deep and dark, and the white sunlight hit his angular face. If it weren't for his clothes, Qian almost thought this man was Gu Qingsong. So similar. When she first met Ms. Lu, she learned that she was a merchant girl and a widow. Now she was a princess, and she was particularly envious. Although women are respected in Ziliang, men can also have careers outside like other countries. The status of a family is still judged by their respective abilities. Later on, she saw that Gu Qingsong didn't go back to his hometown often. Even when he returned to the capital, he always lived in the military camp. Except that Lu sent someone to the military camp to invite people and said that Gu Yunzhen was seriously ill, Gu Qingsong would go back. At that time, MRSGN felt that no matter her high status, she still had to be cared for by a man, and she felt a little pity for MRS Lu. Until MRS Lu plotted against her and slept with her man to control Qin Yang, MRSGN only hated MRS Lu, but the disparity in status made her hide this hatred in her heart. Seeing the scene in front of her, she suddenly became excited. As long as she kept an eye on the Lu family, and found someone to tell Gu Qingsong the next time she came here, she could get rid of the Lu family without her doing it herself. No, no, no. Can't do this. Pulling out the radish and bringing out the mud, what should I do if Qin Yang is involved? Qian rolled his eyes and suddenly had an idea in his mind. The next time MRS Lu comes here to meet a man, she will pay to kill this bitch. Tong Envy Gan can be caught and killed on the spot. Qian left. Su Qiu glanced around and saw no suspicious person. Then he glanced at the wine jar and peanuts on the ground. His thick black eyebrows furrowed. He didn't believe that Liu's woman bought them for him. After carrying the things into the house, Su Qiu threw them all away. The smell in the room has not dissipated, and the bed is in a mess. Su Qiu felt very unhappy when he thought of MRS Lu hugging him and calling him Gu Qingsong when he was extremely happy. Then he thought about MRS Liu's appointment with him 2 days later to let him see the child, so he didn't care about it. When Su Wan returned to Yaoguang Hall, she saw Ji Xian and Qi Min sitting together, just sitting quietly, not even talking, and their eyebrows did not touch. One was reading a book, and the other was reviewing memorials, but the lingering atmosphere changed, and there was a kind of tranquility that has passed through time. Father Su Wan called out and looked at Qi Min again, only to see her looking at him with full eyes. There were strong emotions in her eyes that could not be resolved. The emotions of love and guilt were the strongest. Seeing her, my heart twitched when I heard Qi Min say, "Zhao I remembered everything." Su Wan was stunned. Qi Min came over, opened her arms and hugged Su Wan. "I'm sorry, it was my mother's pride that caused you to suffer a lot. Fortunately you are smart and capable, grew up safe and sound, and the family still has a chance to reunite." Su Wan felt a stabbing pain in her heart, and her eyes were red with discomfort. She wanted to say that the soul in this body had died long ago, and she had never been able to wait for reunion in her entire life. "Mom, can you make me some beautiful little dresses and some jewelry out of paper? Then you can make 3 dishes." Su Wan hugged Qi Min and said in a low voice, "I have been in danger before. It was a little orphan girl who saved me, but she herself died. Neither of us had parents, and she longed for her until she died. Now that I have parents, I want to give her half of it to commemorate her." Okay. Qi Min agreed to all her requests. Su Wan sniffed and let go of Qi Min. Qi Min asked, "You went to Changxing Prince's mansion to treat the young prince?" Yes. Su Wan suddenly remembered something and felt a little weird. "Mom, where is King Changxing from in the Great Zhou dynasty? He asked me suddenly today." At that time, King Changxing wanted to know about the Great Zhou dynasty. After MRS Lu came, he seemed to be worried and did not ask any more questions. "King Changxing is from Guangling Prefecture," Qi Min said in surprise. "Huizi is also a surname from Guangling Prefecture. It is really fate that both of them have the surname Gu." Ji Xian's eyebrows moved. Gu Qingsong, he lives up to his name." Qi Min expressed admiration in his words. "Gu Qingsong?" Ji Xian vaguely felt that the name was familiar, as if he had heard it somewhere. His thoughts were stuck for a while and he couldn't remember who it was. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Bao. Chapter 253. Suwon was unfamiliar with this name and didn't take it seriously. People with the surname Gu in Guangling Prefecture are very common. Have you heard of this name? Chi Min saw Ji Xian thinking, but he said disapprovingly, King Chang Xing is the god of war in Ziliang. He is very popular among the people. It is normal that you have heard of it. Ji Xian shook his head and didn't think much about it, looking at Chi Min tenderly. A faint smile appeared in Chi Min's eyes. Suwon saw the tender and affectionate look of the two people and entered her room. Chi Min glanced at Suwon's figure and said with a hint of sadness, I didn't see her getting married, and I didn't get to spend more time with her. There are still a few days until the new year, and I heard that they will leave for Dazhu on the 5th day of the lunar month. See you next time, I don't know when. The closed door suddenly opened, and Suwon's head popped out. You two can give birth to a younger brother or younger sister, who can always be with you and make up for the shortcomings of not protecting your child's growth. When he grows up, he can take care of your child. I will protect you. Chi Min was surprised and sad, what your parents can accompany you belongs to another child. The lack of your growth will never be made up for in this life. Zhao we don't want to experience the fun and process of being parents, but we don't want to miss every moment the growth of a child. Ji Xian said earnestly, every child is unique and no one can replace him. With a pop sound, Suwon closed the door. I want a younger brother and younger sister. Chi Min and Ji Xian looked at each other, their eyes full of helplessness. Suwon thought they were staying in Ziliang and she had to go back to Dazhu, so she let them have another child to avoid being lonely. She was also worried that they would not have another child because they were ashamed of her, so she specifically said she wanted a younger sibling. With such a big age difference, Suwon can become her own mother, so what kind of younger brothers and sisters do she want? Mom and dad are not in good health and are getting old. It's not enough to take care of your children, Ji Xian replied. Suwon was completely silent. Chi Min couldn't help laughing. Mrs. Lu returned home with a happy face, her previous panic and anxiety were all gone. Gu Huizi was in Ziliang, so she was no longer afraid and had a plan to deal with it. After checking Gu Yunzhen's homework, Mrs. Lu rubbed her sore waist and secretly scolded Suzhou for being rude and barbaric, but it was this wildness that made her want to stop. She knew that she couldn't have too many entanglements, so as not to get angry and burn herself, but who told her not to get Gu Qingsong, and she has never been able to take him into her mouth. Suzhou was the person she found who looked most like Gu Qingsong. Mrs. Lu returned to her courtyard, and her maid sent her a letter. Princess, someone sent a letter to the concierge. Mrs. Lu opened the letter and after reading the contents, her expression suddenly changed. Someone brought wine to Suqiu. Did he find out that there was something fishy between them? Mrs. Lu gritted her teeth and threw the letter into the stove to burn it. Long nights and many dreams. Lu plans to take action in advance. Early the next morning, Gu Qingsong went to the military camp. Mrs. Lu gave Gu Yunzhen breakfast and suddenly vomited. She anxiously sent someone to the palace to ask Suwon to save Gu Yunzhen's life. Suwon originally didn't want to deal with the Lu family anymore and planned to discuss Gu Yunzhen's condition with Master Mingzhu. Now that he suddenly fell ill, the priority was to save his life. She picked up the medicine box and went to the general's mansion. Gu Huizi sent Suwon there. The carriage was galloping along, and suddenly, the horses neighed and stopped suddenly. What's going on? Gu Huizi opened the car curtain and saw a man riding on a horse. His appearance matched the vague memory in his mind. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Bao. Chapter 254. Seeing that Gu Huizi didn't respond, Suwan came over and said, "What's wrong?" Seeing the man opposite, she was surprised and said, "King Chang Xing." "King Chang Xing," Gu Huizi repeated, the emotion in his eyes was dark and unclear. Yes, Suwan smiled and said, "What a coincidence. He is from Guangling Mansion. His name is Gu Qing Song. I wonder if you recognize him." Gu Huizi has cold eyebrows, and the similarity in appearance can be considered a coincidence. If the names are the same, it is difficult to deny that they are the same person. King Chang Xing of the Western Liang dynasty married his wife Lu and had a son who was born weak. In order to preserve the child's life, he kowtowed step by step at the foot of Bama Temple Mountain and climbed up the 100-step ladder. Master Mingju was moved by his true feelings. He left quarantine early to treat his son. The man whom the mother had been waiting for all her life became famous elsewhere, married another wife, and had children. Divine Dr. Su King Chang Xing used a whip to drive his horse to the carriage. His eyes passed over Gu Huizi and landed on Suwan. "Where are you going?" "The young prince is in critical condition." "I'm going to treat him." Suwan frowned. "You didn't know?" King Chang Xing paused and said calmly, "I have just returned from the military camp. I don't know the situation in the mansion. Since we are on the way, we will go together." Suwan's eyes fell on King Chang Xing's right arm. In the cold winter, he wore very little clothing and seemed not to be afraid of the cold. He only wore an ink robe and a large cloak. His arm was exposed, and the ink-colored fabric was stained deeper with blood. "My lord, the wound on your arm is open? Come to the carriage quickly and I will bandage it for you." King Chang Xing thought for a while and said, "Thank you." He threw the reins to the accompanying guards, strode into the carriage, took off his cloak, and took off his shirt, revealing the hideous wounds. Suwan's hand paused. It looked like the wound was newly added, and there were no traces of her stitches on it. "Dr. Su, where are you from?" Dijo. When Suwan heard the familiar question, she reapplied medicine to bandage his wound and replied, "I am from the capital, but my husband's ancestral home is Xinghua village, Zai town, Guangling prefecture." "What a coincidence, my ancestral home is also Zai town." "Then how did the prince come to Ziliang?" King Chang Xing spoke casually, "Madam is from the Ziliang kingdom? I was a poor farmer at the time, making a living by hunting. I sold the delicacies and game I hunted to wealthy families in Zai town. Madam happened to be at her maternal grandfather's house. My maternal grandfather is a regular customer of mine, and I got to know her from time to time, so I followed her to Ziliang." Suwan felt a sudden change in the atmosphere and couldn't help but look at Gu Huizi. He turned his face to the car window, and the veins on the back of his hands popped out, as if he was trying his best to endure something. Suddenly, Suwan reacted and bandaged the wound neatly. King Chang Xing put on his clothes and said, "The carriage will stop here for a moment. I still have something to deal with." Suwan knocked on the wall and the carriage stopped. King Chang Xing thanked him and left. "What's wrong with you?" Suwan asked. "Do you know King Chang Xing?" Gu Huizi sneered, "My father's name is Gu Qing Song." Suwan's expression suddenly changed. "You mean?" His thoughts were spinning rapidly. King Chang Xing said that he was from Zai town, and his name was Gu Qing Song. He remembered his name, so he would not lose his memory like Chi Min. Moreover, he also explained very clearly how to get together with the Lu family. Wrong. Suwan immediately discovered the suspicion. No, I took King Changxing's carriage back to the capital. The wound on his arm was too deep. I sewed it up with a few stitches. After so many days, the wound was almost healed, but his new I can't see any traces of old injuries. I suspect that this person is pretending to be King Changxing. He bumped into us on purpose and said something like this. Does it mean that someone knows your identity and doesn't want you to recognize King Changxing to provoke a fight between you? Relationship. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 255. Suwan felt suspicious. If King Changxing was Gu Huizi's father, maybe he wanted to get news about his old friend when he asked her about the great Zhou dynasty before. As for why he came to Ziliang and became a king with a different surname, there may be other hidden reasons. As for the hidden secret, Suwan wasn't sure, but she knew that it might have something to do with Liu. The person pretending to be King Changxing said that Liu's maternal grandfather was from Zitown. If King Changxing had abandoned his wife and son for Liu, it meant that he didn't care about his original wife and his children, so why bother to find someone to pretend to be? Suwan deliberately bumped into their carriage on the road, but she didn't forget that Mrs. Liu specially invited someone to come to the palace to invite her today. What a coincidence, right? This shows what? Gu Qingsong's disappearance must have been caused by the Liu family. She probably knew Gu Huizi's true identity and was afraid that the father and son would recognize each other, so she made Gu Huizi misunderstand that Gu Qingsong was a scumbag who abandoned his wife and children and lived freely in Ziliang Kingdom. After such deliberation, Suwan suspected that King Changxing asked her where she was from in Dezhou, and he might really want to pry for information. No matter what the reason was, Gu's mother had been waiting for him for so many years, but he had never gone to find Gu's mother. After getting married and starting a business, it was meaningless whether they recognized each other or not. When she learned that Chi Min got married in Ziliang and had a child, she felt very sad, so she could sympathize with Gu Huizi's mood. If Mother Gu knew this news, it would probably be a huge blow. It would be better to treat him as dead. Huizi. I'm fine. Gu Huizi touched her head with his hand, calmed down his emotions, and said with a tight voice, he is unforgivable, whether he is or not. What could Gu Qingsong do to make up for the 8 or 9 years of waiting for his mother, the pain he endured, and the death of his younger brother? I won't go to Prince Changxing's mansion. Suwan hugged Gu Huizi and put her head on his chest. Gu Yunzhen is in critical condition. It must be Liu who deliberately lured me here. She knew that doctors were benevolent and could not substitute personal feelings. But she was Gu Huizi's wife, and she went to save his half-brother. What was he thinking? Suwan couldn't do it. She could just give the plan to Master Mingzhu, but she couldn't save it herself. Moun. Gu Huizi called. Master Moun appeared outside the carriage. Tie up the man just now. Gu Huizi hugged Suwan into his arms and whispered, you promised the queen, how could you go against the emperor's order? It's his business whether he recognizes Gu Qingsong or not, but he can't help these monsters and monsters pretending to be mysterious in front of him. Suwan raised her head and touched his dark and cold eyes. There was a sneer on the corners of her lips, and she knew that he was going to settle accounts. Okay, it's okay anyway, I'm out of the palace. The group went to Changxing Prince's mansion. The doorman recognized Suwan and let her go when he saw her. The next moment, when I saw my prince walking towards him with a strange face and a strange person beside him, he couldn't help but be stunned for a moment and saluted quickly. Soon, servants led them to the backyard. Mrs. Liu stood at the door of the courtyard, her eyes red, as if she had cried a lot. She heard the footsteps and looked sideways. When she saw Gu Hui, her expression froze. She really didn't expect Gu Huizi to come. According to her guess, Suwan came to Changxing Palace alone, met Suzhou, and heard Suzhou talking about Gu Qingsong abandoning his wife and son. As long as Suwan was not stupid, then she would guess that it was Gu Huizi's father. Even if she didn't guess, he would know if she told Gu Huizi. Even if Gu Huizi followed Suzhou, he would definitely hate Gu Qingsong in his heart after hearing Su Chu's words. How could he find the palace? When Gu Huizi figured it out and came to question him, she had already silenced him. Mrs. Liu's eyes changed, her power moved people's hearts. For the sake of glory and wealth, Gu Huizi planned to ignore the past grudges and get to know Gu Qingsong and his son? Dr. Su, you are finally here. Zhener is suffering from vomiting and diarrhea for some unknown reason. Please go in and see him. The prince only has one son. If something happens, what will we do? Ms. Lu quickly adjusted her mood, tears welled up in her eyes, and urged Suwan to get in quickly. Suwan looked at Mrs. Lu and then at Gu Huizi. Seeing him nodding slightly, she pursed her lips and entered the courtyard hesitantly. Gu Huizi followed closely and went in with Suwan. Mrs. Lu wanted to stop her, but she suddenly saw someone coming out of the arch. She couldn't help but was stunned. For a moment, she couldn't tell whether this person was Suzhou or really Gu Qingsong. When she touched this man's eyes, Mrs. Lu was startled and recognized that it was Suzhou. Her expression changed drastically. Why are you here? As soon as she said this, Mrs. Lu realized something was wrong and immediately changed her words. Didn't the prince say that he was going to the military camp? Suzhou was secretly worried, and Lu Shiqian warned him not to enter the palace of Changxing Prince. He came to Gu Qingsong's territory and pretended to be Gu Qingsong. If Gu Qingsong found out, he would die. Gu Huizi sent someone to tie him up, indicating that he knew he was a fake and could no longer handle the matter. I heard that Zhener was ill, so I came back to take a look. Suzhou took 2 steps forward, but was pulled back violently. Mrs. Lu immediately felt something was wrong and scolded her with a stern face. What are you doing? You have hurt the prince, can you bear it? She shouted into the yard. Here comes someone. Catch this thief quickly. Mon said coldly, Princess, this person is audacious and pretends to be King Changxing. Following the master's order, my subordinates arrested him and escorted him to the palace, where he will be dealt with by the prince. Mrs. Lu was shocked. The next moment, Chun Rui hurried over and said, Princess, the prince is back. She walked around the archway and was stunned when she saw Su Qiu. Turning her head and looking back, an identical face came into her eyes. Two princes. You are listening to novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 256. Mrs. Lu thought Chun Rui was referring to Suzhou, so she glared at her so hard that when she sent the message at this time, the daylily was already cold. There are uninvited guests in the house who are disrespectful to the prince. Go and call for someone to catch this thief. Mrs. Liu's face was as dark as water, and she threatened Mon with a stern expression, you must let the prince go quickly, otherwise. What if not? Gu Qingsong walked out of the arch and looked at the arrogant Lu with sharp eyes, who is holding this king hostage. The moment Mrs. Lu saw Gu Qingsong, her legs went weak. Chun Rui supported her so that she didn't fall to the ground. When Mrs. Lu saw Gu Qingsong looking at Suzhou, she was frightened and said preemptively, Prince. Are you the real prince? This thief brought a man exactly like you and pretended to be you. I fell into his trap. I thought he was fooling me. He wants to do something bad to you and get frightened, so he calls the guards to catch the thief. My lord, you came at the right time, capture the thief quickly. Seeing Suzhou about to speak, Mrs. Liu's heart sank, and she said anxiously, Zhener is sick. Let's go in and take a look. Just leave this place to the guards. Suzhou saw the threat from Liu's look. She mentioned Zhener, implying that if he implicated her, his son would not be saved. He soon had an idea in his mind. He had lived a miserable life, mediocre for most of his life, and had only one son, Gu Yunzhen. Now he was the heir apparent in the palace. If he could keep Gu Yunzhen, he would die. My lord, please help me. I was riding a horse on the street when I accidentally bumped into a carriage. The people on the carriage saw my arm was injured and asked me to get in and bandage the wound. I saw that they didn't pursue me and bandaged it. The wound must be a good man. Without thinking much, he got on the carriage. Suzhou cried out and asked Gu Qingsong for help. I didn't expect that after I got off the carriage, this man caught me and took me to the palace, pretending to be you. Gu Qingsong took a few steps forward and was 3 steps away from Su Qiu. He looked at him sharply, as if looking into a mirror. Not to mention the facial features, even the details were similar. He turned to look at Madame Lu, who was standing aside. Madame Lu looked panicked and her fingers were holding onto her skirt uneasily, as if she was afraid of something. What are you doing pretending to be me? Gu Qingsong pointed at Moun and asked with interest. This thief didn't ask before he caught you pretending to be me. I have returned to the capital. He brought you to the palace, not to surrender snare. Your Majesty, they have said that you are in the military camp and will not be able to come back for a while. Suzhou glanced at Lu quickly and begged for help. My lord, help me, I didn't mean to impersonate you. Gu Qingsong caught the subtlety. Suzhou seemed to look at Lu every time he said a word. When he was talking to Suzhou, Mrs. Lu would be particularly nervous. He clapped his palms, and guards came from all directions. Moun didn't speak from beginning to end. Gu Qingsong asked, you have nothing to say? My master is treating the young prince inside. After they finish the treatment, they will naturally have something to tell the prince. Moun said with a cold face, the prince does not have the discernment to recognize people, so he should have patience. Gu Qingsong heard Moun's sarcasm and captured an important piece of information. Is your master Dr. Su? Dr. Su is the mistress. Moun said coldly, my master is the son of the regent of the great Zhou dynasty. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 257. Gu Qingsong frowned, the son of the regent of the great Zhou dynasty. Didn't Ji Xian never marry? Could it be that there is a bastard? Gu Qingsong sent someone to investigate Su Wan's identity, but no news had come back yet, so he was not very clear about her situation. One thing was very clear. As the queen's daughter, Su Wan had no grudges with him and would not let anyone impersonate him for any plot. The last time they met, Gu Qingsong could see that Su Wan's character was not that of a treacherous or evil person. If Su Wan had evil intentions, he would not treat Gu Yunzhen today. But Mrs. Lu suddenly thought of something and exclaimed, Zhen'er! My Zhen'er! She suddenly broke away from Chun Rui's support and ran into the yard with a pale face. Zhen'er! Zhen'er! Gu Huizi found out that Suzhou was pretending to be Gu Qingsong, knew his identity, and was willing to rescue Gu Yunzhen. Lu had to suspect that they would kill Gu Yunzhen. Mrs. Lu rushed into the inner room in a panic and saw Su Wan packing the medicine box and planning to leave. Suddenly, Ms. Lu pulled out the dagger from her sleeve and ran towards Gu Huizi, trying to grab Gu Huizi's hand and stab Gu Yunzhen with the dagger. In this way, when Gu Qingsong comes in, she can accuse Gu Huizi of wanting to kill Gu Yunzhen. As for why Gu Huizi and Gu Qingsong's first wives were still alive, Ms. Lu only said that she didn't know and that she was deceived by the people sent to investigate. As long as Gu Huizi insists on killing Gu Yunzhen, with Gu Qingsong's love for Gu Yunzhen, she will definitely not pursue the matter of her deceiving Gu Qing's original wife and son into dying. Ah! Su Wan kicked Ms. Lu to the ground, grabbed her hand, and twisted it behind her back. He snatched the dagger from her hand, grazed her neck, and plunged it into the crack of the blue bricks. Mrs. Lu felt a pain in her neck and saw the cold light of the dagger flashing across her face. She was so frightened that her eyes rolled back and she almost lost control. The sound of chaotic footsteps came, and a group of people entered the house in a mighty manner. Gu Qingsong's face turned cold when he saw the scene in front of him. "Your Majesty, do you treat your savior with kindness and revenge?" Suwan twisted the hand that clamped Liu's arm hard and removed her arm with a click. A cold light burst out from her eyes. "This is just a little bit. Lesson, next time you dare to touch my man, try it." Mrs. Liu howled in pain and was about to faint. Suwan let go of Liu, stood beside Gu Huizi, and then looked at Gu Qingsong. Then he saw Gu Qingsong's eyes full of surprise, staring at Gu Huizi's face, his expression becoming complicated. After Mrs. Liu recovered, she wanted to cry to Gu Qingsong, but when she saw this scene, her heart skipped a beat and she sobbed, "Your Majesty, I didn't. Divine Dr. Su saved Zhen'er's life, how could I retaliate? It was Divine Dr. Su who took the lead. She has come to the palace with a lot of people, so I have to worry that she wants to do harm to Zhen'er." She seemed to have suddenly thought of something, and said in a sharp voice, "Your Majesty, I know. I know what they want to do by bringing a person pretending to be you. They want to kill Zhen'er, and then let the person pretending to be you, don't pursue this matter and sow discord between us husband and wife." Gu Huizi chuckled and said sarcastically, "Princess, you seem to be too worried. The prince was able to abandon his wife and children for you in the past. It shows that your love is stronger than gold. How can you allow others to instigate the relationship between you?" As soon as he said these words, Gu Qingsong was sure and couldn't believe it. "You, or you Huizi?" The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruanmeng Baobao. Chapter 258. Gu Qingsong never dreamed that he would have the chance to see his son in this life, but under such ridiculous circumstances. He is not stupid, and it is not difficult to figure out what this farce is about. Liu had deceived him from the beginning, and neither his first wife nor his son died. When Gu Huizi came to Ziliang, Mrs. Liu might have learned the news in advance, so she deliberately asked someone to impersonate him to alienate the father-son relationship between him and Gu Huizi, causing Gu Huizi to be alienated from him and unwilling to be with him again in this life. See, this way I won't reveal Liu's lies. But he didn't expect that Gu Huizi saw through that the man was an impostor, and asked someone to kidnap the impostor to the palace, hoping to hand it over to him for disposal. Gu Qingsong suppressed the strong emotions that swept over him when his father and son met, and planned to deal with the matter at hand before explaining it to Gu Huizi. He looked at Mrs. Liu who was kneeling on the ground, and his anger surged in his heart. "Mrs. Liu, you arranged for someone to pretend to be the king. Did you already know Huizi's identity? Let him fabricate that the king abandoned his wife and son, and followed you wherever you go. Are the lies about starting a family in Ziliang sowing discord between our father and son?" "No, Your Majesty, I didn't," Mrs. Liu denied it, and when she saw Gu Qingsong's cold eyes, she shuddered all over. "Your Majesty, I was also deceived. When I rescued you, I wanted to inform your family. Someone told me that your home was robbed by bandits and your wife and children were all killed, so I brought you to Ziliang. Your Majesty, I don't know your wife and children either. Maybe I didn't ask clearly and got the wrong person. It's also possible that your family doesn't get along with the people in the village, and those people lied and played with me." Liu's pear blossom looked particularly tearful. "Delicate and weak," she said heartbrokenly, "Your Majesty, we have been married for many years. Don't you know what kind of person I am? If I had lied to you, I would have killed their mother and son and silenced them. Why did I let them live? Why would I take you to find someone in Xinghua village? The house you live in is indeed occupied by another family. My lord, believe me, I really didn't lie to you." Ms. Liu became more and more sad as she spoke. "That person must have been faked by Gu Huizi. He knew your identity and left you without saying goodbye. I was full of hatred for your success, so I let someone pretend to be you, which killed Zhen'er and broke up our relationship. Gu Song frowned. If Lu had misunderstood, what about Qin Yang? This matter must be clarified today. Come, go to the Qin mansion and invite Vice General Qin. The expression on Mrs. Liu's face froze, and she quickly lowered her head to hide the panic in her eyes, but she quickly calmed down. For the sake of his current status, Qin Yang would definitely not tell the truth. The guard had just left the house and came back soon with a letter in his hand. Your Majesty, someone has brought a letter to you. It is said to be something very important. Please check it immediately. Mrs. Lu stared at the letter in Gu Song's hand, feeling inexplicably flustered, as if some secret was about to surface, and her heartbeat was extremely fast. Gu Song opened the letter and after reading the contents, his face became gloomy and his whole body exuded a terrifying aura. He suddenly pulled out the sword from the guard's waist, swung it at Ms. Lu and cut off her waistband. The clothes on her body fell apart in layers, revealing a piece of snow-white skin underneath, which was covered with ambiguous red marks and even pinched by fingers. Fingerprints. You are listening to Novels at Bless Up channel. Wish you happiness and luck. Please subscribe to receive new novels. How do you feel about this novel? Please like and leave a comment. The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 259. Mrs. Lu screamed and hurriedly gathered her clothes with one hand. The whole person felt like falling into an ice cave. There are only two words in my mind, it's over. Su Qiu had many tricks, and she was very happy when doing them. Gu Song didn't touch her, so he didn't stop Su Qiu from leaving traces, as long as they didn't leave marks on his neck. Who knows? Your Majesty. Mrs. Lu was shocked into silence when she saw Gu Song's cannibalistic eyes. Gu Song's eyes were red from the stimulation of the red marks on her body. The content of the letter was that she was unruly and living alone in a small courtyard in Huaxi Alley. And that man's appearance was very similar to him. Gu Song instantly thought of the person pretending to be him. Come here. Take the person who pretends to be the king and put him in a secret cell for interrogation. Gu Song was furious and said with a black face, Lu didn't follow the rules of women and had an affair with others. We put them together in a secret cell and interrogated him every time. If he refused to tell the truth, he would cut off one of Liu's fingers. No. Your Majesty. No. Ms. Lu was horrified and knelt down in front of Gu Song to beg for mercy. I was forced by him. Your Majesty, if I don't commit myself, he will expose this matter. I'm afraid, so I have to give in to him. Pull it down. Gu Song didn't even look at Lu. Genre, Ms. Liu's mouth was gagged, and the guards dragged her down. Su Qiu was detained outside by Mon. He vaguely heard the movement inside, saw Liu's embarrassed appearance, and the scattered clothes, revealing the marks on the skin. It was like five thunders. If this deed was exposed, what would Genre do? Sample. The next moment, a guard restrained him and dragged him away. The yard was instantly clean. The atmosphere in the room was solemn. Gu Yunzhen lay weakly on the bed, listening to it from beginning to end, crying until the pillow was wet, biting his lips, not daring to make a sound. He saw it all, and saw that it was his mother-in-law who was throwing a dagger at his eldest brother. The mother-in-law did something wrong to her father, and he wanted to punish her. Gu Yunzhen knew that his mother-in-law was wrong, but she was very kind to him, and he didn't want to lose her. Father, please don't hurt my mother and concubine. You can let her go to the temple as an aunt. Genre doesn't want to lose her mother and concubine. Gu Yunzhen knelt down on the bed and begged Ms. Lu for mercy. Gu Song looked at Gu Yunzhen, who was weak, pale, and sickly, with tears in his red eyes, defending his mother, and the softness in his heart was touched. He handed the long sword to the guard and strode to the bedside. He wiped away the tears from his eyes with rough fingers. "Jenner, you have to pay the price for doing something wrong." He looked sideways at Gu Huizi beside him and lowered his head. He said in a loud voice, "You don't want to lose your mother and concubine, but she made the eldest brother lose his father. Do you still want to plead for her?" Gu Yunzhen nodded, the mist in his eyes gathering. No, Gu Qingsong was firm. Gu Yunzhen burst into tears and looked at Gu Qingsong stubbornly, hoping that he would soften his heart. Gu Qingsong put aside his head and ordered the frightened maid beside him, "Take good care of Zhen'er." "Yes," the maid's voice trembled. Gu Qingsong ordered, "Investigate Liu's concubine." The guards took the order and left. Gu Qingsong looked at Gu Yunzhen, who was hiding under the quilt and crying. He cruelly ignored it and said to Gu Huizi, "I have something to tell you. Come with me to the study. You clean up your own mess first." Gu Huizi glanced at him, then at the small bulge on the bed, took Su Wan's hand and walked out. "Everything is fine, mother." The favorite of the Nongmen group, the female supporting role is a full-level boss. Author, Ruan Meng Baobao. Chapter 260. Gu Qingsong strode out following Gu Huizi. "Huizi, I did not abandon my wife and children. I was attacked while hunting in the mountains, fell off the cliff, and was rescued by Lu. I was in a coma for several months. She lied to me. You were killed by my enemies. I don't believe it, so I came to Xinghua village to find you. It's not you who live in the Gu family's ancestral home. Mrs. Lu took me to see your tomb. I still refuse to believe that you were killed. Mrs. Lu redeemed the things I gave to your mother at the pawn shop, so I began to believe it. Your mother said that when she was gone, the things would be gone, otherwise she would keep them all the time." Gu Qingsong took out the silver jewelry for Lu Gaixiang from his sleeve. "I have been asking about the quota for Guangling Prefecture's rural examination, but I didn't see you on the list. I also sent people to look for it, and they..." Gu Qingsong clenched his fists and veins popped out on the back of his hands. How could he not know that Qin Yang had betrayed him? Seeing his painful look, Gu Huizi was unmoved. "Why don't you go into the village to find someone to ask?" Gu Qingsong couldn't walk freely at that time, and he was indeed attacked. "I believe it was an enemy seeking revenge." He was afraid that Mao would suddenly appear and alert his enemies. Not only would he be unable to protect himself, but innocent people would also be harmed. "Over the years, you have had many opportunities to come to Xinghua village." Gu Qingsong opened his mouth. "You want to say that you became the general of Ziliang Kingdom at that time, and you had important responsibilities, and you were not allowed to leave the station without permission from the emperor," Gu Huizi said softly and slowly. Gu Qingsong's situation in the road was obviously a fact, but Gu Qingsong feel ashamed. The next moment, I heard Gu Huizi say, "My mother is pregnant. I heard that you were killed by a wild beast." She still refused to believe it and kept looking for her to give birth. "Because of your affairs, she was too sad and overworked to give birth in less than a month. A pair of younger brothers and sisters. The younger brother was weak and died within a few months. The silver jewelry in your hand was pawned by the mother to save his younger brother. She has survived the most painful and unbearable days. Since you have already started a family and have other children, I haven't seen you today." Gu Huizi's eyes were indifferent and calm. "If you are in pain, I regret my mother's suffering and don't appear in front of her." Gu Qingsong felt sad in his heart. "Huizi, you have already made a choice back then. You chose to be the general of Ziliang. Your mother is not important to you. Now it is meaningless to look back." Gu Huizi tugged at the corners of his lips and sneered, "If my wife and children die, when you are under the enemy's knife, you must sacrifice the enemy's blood with your own hands to resolve your hatred." Gu Qingsong was stunned, hearing the implication of Gu Huizi's words. His wife and children were so important to him, and they died at the hands of his enemies. He must go back for revenge and sacrifice his blood to the souls of his wife and children. If he did this, he would definitely discover Liu's lies. At that time, he wanted to hold the power and go back to kill the enemy with his own hands. Liu said that the enemy was already dead, no matter how much he couldn't help himself, it was just not intentional enough. Everything turned pale. He has forgotten the original intention of fighting in the first place. As a result, he had been separated from his wife and children for many years, causing them to suffer too much. No wonder Gu Huizi refused to forgive him. Gu Qingsong thought that he was seeking medical advice for Gu Yunzhen, that his wife was carrying her seriously ill son around to seek medical treatment, and that after suffering the pain of losing her husband, she would also have to bear the pain of losing her son. Ignorant and stupid, he was fooled around by a woman. At this time, the guard came in a hurry and reported, "Your Majesty, the investigation is clear. The person pretending to be you is named Suzhou. He lives in Huaxi Lane and has known Mr. Liu for 7 years. The author has something to say. Good night, babies, see you tonight, okay."